Hey, how you doing? I am a strength conditioning graduate assistant for football. My name is Shalin Jackson, and we're going to be going through the 10-yard acceleration sprint through different phases. This is our first example of a 10-yard acceleration sprint. First, in our start phase, we want our trunk or our upper body leaning at a 45-degree angle with our eyes 2 yards ahead of us. So that means we want to hold this position so that when we do drive and excel out in the next phase, we have a horizontal power output. On our contralateral arm, so the opposite arm from the forward knee is going to be up with our thumb to our cheek of our face and the elbow at 90 degrees. And our ipsilateral arm, so the same arm as the forward knee, is going to be back with our thumb to our pocket of our shorts or our pants. All right, with the elbow at the same angle, 90 degrees. Our hips are going to be hinged back to help allow us to stay in that 45-degree angle for a horizontal power output. Our shin is going to be in a positive angle, meaning that our knee is going to be driving over the toe when we're talking about the forward leg. All right. And our back leg is going to be semi-straight or with a soft bend, depending on our mobility. We can have a back leg bend like a regular sprinter. It all just depends on the person and their preference. But our staggered stance has to remain consistent, being hip width apart regardless of who's starting in that stance. Our body weight is 70% on that front foot, 30% on the back foot, meaning that we have to load a lot of our weight on the ball of our front foot, and the heel is lifted for both feet, keeping a stiff ankle. In our drive and acceleration phase, we bound or jump out of our stance 1.5 yards to 2 yards. Our back leg drives up into a high knee position or aggressively punches up, so when we strike the turf, it's violent. When our knee drives up, we want to have our heel finishing underneath the hip, creating an A shape, which is why we have certain drills called A skips to help put us in this position so that we don't overreach and have a hamstring injury. When we go into a knee-driven position, our toe goes into dorsiflexion, or we drive our toe to shin, so that when we do strike the turf, we remain that ankle stiffness and keep a good balance between plantar flexion and dorsiflexion so that our heel stays off the turf and we don't lose any energy in our tendons or Achilles. If we don't remain that ankle stiffness and our tendons lose stiffness and relaxes, then we're going to lose that energy that's going to dissipate into heat that will go into our propulsion and improve our acceleration to help us sprint faster. And we don't want that. We want to keep the heel off the turf so that we have activation from our calf and our tendon. Entering that transition phase, you start to see a gradual rise from our 45-degree lean toward a more upright, almost vertical lean as we start to exit our 10-yard acceleration. Our arm action goes from violent to a more smooth, consistent swing while the elbows still remain at 90 and maintain that cheek to pocket hand and thumb motion. Our violent knee drive still remains consistent, even though the relative distance between our knee and the turf starts to decrease with a faster striking pattern and a more increased frequency of strides as we start to transition from a more vertical power output from a horizontal power output, meaning that our ground contact time is also going to decrease. For foot placement, nothing really changes drastically. We still want to finish with the heel underneath the hips to avoid overreaching and possibly injuring our hamstring. And we also want to keep a stiff ankle, keeping the heel off the turf when we strike that turf. Here's another example of a 10-yard acceleration from a different angle. Again, the major cues, positive shin angle, see how the knee is driving over the toe and our heel is off the turf, while we do maintain that 45-degree angle of the upper body. In that drive and excel phase, we have violent arm action, a high knee drive, and our heels off the turf and we're bounding out while still maintaining that 45-degree angle. The ankle is stiff, the heel is off the turf, ready to help with propulsion, and we're not having any energy leaks as seen in the photo. As mentioned before in the photo, as you can see, entering that transition phase, we start to see a more vertical upright position rather than a horizontal position as we start to enter max velocity. All right, now bringing all the phases together in this clip, we're going to slow it down. As you can see, the sprinter, or me, the athlete, goes from a horizontal position to a vertical, but while all maintaining the same cues that we need to be successful within 10 yards. In this next clip, we're going to show what it looks like going from a 10-yard acceleration to a max velocity sprint. So once you enter that more vertical power output, that contact time becomes decreased, right? In acceleration, we have longer contact times, meaning we're spending more time on the ground. And in max velocity and even transition, with the shorter contact times, we're going to be more in a flight position, or we're going to be spending more time off the turf as seen in the photo. Now we're going to be talking about some more corrections in my own sprinting. First, in that start position, the front foot, the heel is not off the turf, meaning we're starting already in a disadvantaged position. Second, this is a poor A shape by me. We're overreaching. There's a possible hamstring injury waiting to happen. So here our back leg isn't fully extended, right? Which means that we might collapse at the ankle. Here we're still overreaching a little bit, but it's not as bad. The angle isn't as bad, but we're starting to come more upright too early, right? Moving from a more vertical position, from a horizontal position too early is going to slow us down, and we're going to be at disadvantage if we're in a competition setting. Here, as you can see, that forward foot isn't in dorsiflexion. It's actually more in plantar flexion before we even come close to the turf, meaning that there's a possible chance of us collapsing at the ankle. The greatest coaching cue you could ever give somebody is max intent and max effort. You can't get faster, and you can't become a great sprinter or be great within 10 yards for most field athletes if you don't attack the weight room, you don't attack the field, and you don't attack your sprinting sessions with the max effort that you need to get better, right? Sprinting is all about intent and effort. Not only do we need to perform sprinting with max intent, but we need to do the same in the weight room, moving heavy weights and moving weights fast through bilateral and unilateral work, plyometrics, and Olympic lifting to improve muscle activation and recruitment so that when we do excel, we have the tools needed to do it at a high level. Thank you for watching my performance skill analysis on the 10-yard acceleration sprint.